My husband flew into a jealous rage when a regular customer with special needs asked only for me to serve him. He tried to force me to quit my job, accusing me of being in love with my client. I stayed silent. His controlling demands and cold threats spoke louder than any words ever could. I've been married to my husband Ryan for about 2 years now, and we've been together for 5. We have 2 kids, and honestly, I thought I couldn't be happier until Ryan found out about one of our customers. My sister Jess and I run a little cafe in a busy neighborhood filled with office buildings. Nearby, there's a day center for people with various disabilities, and they do different types of tasks throughout the day. There's one guy, Thomas, who's maybe around 25 or 30 and has Down syndrome. Every morning, his taxi drops him off around 7:30, and he comes straight to our cafe. He always orders the same breakfast and coffee, and he always sits at the same table, the one that faces my workstation. Thomas doesn't talk much. He usually just smiles and politely asks me how I'm doing and what I've got planned for the day. But here's the thing, he insists that only I take his order. If Jess or one of our employees tries to serve him, he refuses. If I'm busy, he just waits until I'm free. Then, around 8 a.m., he starts his day at the center. In the afternoon, he comes back around 3:30 and sits at the same table until his taxi picks him up at 4. I usually give him a soda or a smoothie on the house. Apparently, if I'm not working that day, he gets visibly confused. He'll come in, wait for a while, and then quietly leave without ordering anything. Jess and her wife Sarah were over for dinner one night. I'd been sick the week before, so Jess was telling a funny story about how Thomas had waited outside for me because he didn't want anyone else to serve him. Ryan looked confused, so Jess explained who Thomas was and how he was part of our cafe's daily routine. Ryan went silent for the rest of the night. After Jess and Sarah left, he asked me why I had never mentioned Thomas before. He said he thought Thomas was being disrespectful. I was completely confused. What was he even talking about? Then Ryan asked if Thomas even knew I was married. I explained that Thomas has Down syndrome, and Ryan got upset. He told me that people with Down syndrome can still be aware of things and that I was being prejudiced by assuming otherwise. I clarified that I knew that, but when Thomas first started coming in, one of the staff from the day center had explained that Thomas had the mind of an 8-year-old and was very much a creature of habit. They had asked if his presence was making us uncomfortable, and we told them no, he was always polite and sweet. But Ryan clearly wasn't okay with any of it. The next week, Ryan showed up at the cafe at 7:30 a.m. and sat in Thomas's usual spot. When Thomas walked in, he got visibly flustered and just stood there near my counter, holding his sandwich and coffee. I gently asked if he wanted help finding another seat. But before I could say anything else, Ryan snapped at him and told him to stop staring at me, that I was a married woman and he needed to respect that. Thomas looked confused and hurt. He apologized and walked out, standing outside the cafe, not knowing what to do. I was heartbroken. I begged Ryan to apologize and give Thomas his seat back. I told him he didn't understand. Thomas doesn't handle changes well. But Ryan didn't care. He said Thomas was clearly in love with me. Jess had previously told Ryan that Thomas once gave me a Valentine's Day card. Ryan lost it. When I got home that day, he told me he made enough money and that I didn't need to work anymore. He had even reached out to Jess, asking her to buy out my share of the cafe. He said he was disappointed that I hadn't told him about Thomas or the card, like I was hiding something. I told him I wasn't hiding anything. We get hundreds of customers every day, and I don't tell him about every single one. But Ryan insisted this wasn't just a customer, this was someone who came in daily and had a crush on me. He said that made it different. We argued, but eventually, we sort of made up, or at least pretended to. But the next day, he barely spoke to me. I asked if he was still upset, and he just said he needed time to think. I didn't know what that meant. I was still angry with him for overreacting, and I started to feel like the person I'd married was slipping away. Things weren't the same after that. Some days, he'd avoid me completely, especially when I told a funny story from the cafe. The spark between us started fading, and I didn't know what else to do. So, I resigned from the cafe, thinking maybe that would make things better. When I told Ryan, he pretended to be happy. But I could tell he wasn't. It felt fake. Lately, he's been working late more often. I'm starting to wonder if he's falling out of love with me or worse, if he's cheating. My heart feels like it's already in pieces. Every time I try to talk to him, he brushes it off with "I love you" and everything's fine, but I don't believe him anymore. I feel stuck, like I'm drowning and can't get out. Update, it's been 6 months and I've got some tea. I thought I'd changed enough details in this story that Ryan wouldn't recognize it if he came across it online. Big mistake. Just 2 days after I posted it, one of his coworkers, Kevin, read it, connected the dots from things Ryan had said at work, and sent him the link. Yesterday, I was in the kitchen making dinner when Ryan came home early and slammed the front door so hard the window shook. He stormed in, holding his phone out with the Reddit post on the screen. "What the hell is this?" he shouted. "You're airing our private life online for strangers to judge me?" My heart sank. I never meant for him to see it. I just didn't have anyone else to talk to. I tried to explain, but he wasn't having it. "Do you know how embarrassing this is?" Kevin sent this to me asking if it was us. Now everyone thinks I'm some controlling hole. Is that what you think of me? The kids started crying in the other room from all the yelling. I rushed to check on them, trying to soothe them while my brain raced. When I got back, Ryan was sitting at the table with his head in his hands. I can't believe you would do this, he said. You sold me out for internet attention. That's when it hit me. He wasn't mad about our broken marriage. He was mad about being embarrassed online. He didn't care about the jealousy, the control, or even the potential cheating. He cared about how strangers saw him. Ryan, this wasn't about embarrassing you, I said. I posted because I didn't know what else to do. You won't talk to me. You got jealous of a man with special needs. You tried to force me out of my business. What was I supposed to do? He looked up, and for a moment, I thought maybe he understood. But then his phone buzzed again, and just like that, he shut down. Pack a bag, he said coldly. I'm staying at Mark's tonight. I need to think about whether this marriage can be saved. Mark's his best friend. So now that's where we are. Ryan left, and I stayed up all night crying. The kids keep asking where Daddy is, and I don't know what to tell them. All this because my husband got jealous of a man with Down syndrome who just liked sitting in his usual seat. I never thought our marriage would fall apart like this. But now I'm wondering if it was ever as solid as I thought. Maybe this ridiculous jealousy was just the first crack in something that was already broken. This morning, I woke up to Liam crying. My eyes were swollen from crying all night, but I dragged myself out of bed, picked him up, and tried to soothe him. Emma wondered in rubbing her eyes. Where's Daddy? She asked. I forced a smile. He's at Uncle Mark's. He'll be back soon. I hoped I wasn't lying. I went through the motions, breakfast, cartoons, getting the kids dressed. Still no message from Ryan. I kept checking my phone, rereading our last conversation before the fight. Around noon, Jess called. Hey, just checking in. You okay to work tomorrow? I'd almost forgotten. I was just going about my day, staying on schedule, when Jess called. Ryan found the Reddit post, she said. Oh no. How bad was it? I gave her the short version while keeping an eye on the kids playing in the living room. She listened, occasionally making sympathetic sounds. That's a huge overreaction, she said when I finished. You didn't even use real names. I know, I said. But his coworker recognized the situation and showed it to him. Now he's staying at Mark's place and I don't know what's going to happen. Look, Jess said firmly. Don't worry about the cafe. Take a few days off. Sarah and I are coming over tonight with takeout and wine. You shouldn't be alone right now. After we hung up, I tried focusing on the kids, but my mind kept drifting. I kept checking my phone. Still no word from Ryan. Around 2 p.m., I couldn't wait any longer and finally texted him. Can we please talk? The kids keep asking about you. 3 dots popped up, then disappeared, then popped up again. Finally, he sent. Still figuring things out. We'll call later to talk to the kids. He didn't even address me directly. Great. That evening, true to his word, he called. I put him on speaker so Emma and Liam could talk to him. I stood nearby, unsure of what to do. Emma asked when he was coming home. Ryan just said soon and quickly changed the subject. Once they finished, I picked up the phone. Ryan, please, I can't talk now, he cut in. Mark and I are heading out. Then he hung up. Jess and Sarah showed up an hour later with Thai food and 2 bottles of wine. After the kids were asleep, I completely lost it. I sobbed into my pad thai. I just don't understand how it got this bad, I said, wiping my nose with a napkin. All over a customer with special needs? Jess asked. Sarah, who's a therapist, looked thoughtful. This can't just be about Thomas. There's something else going on with Ryan. Like what? Cheating. I asked, my stomach churning. Maybe Jess said, pouring more wine. Those late nights at work are sketchy. Or maybe insecurity, Sarah offered. Jealousy like this usually comes from deep insecurity. Has anything else been stressing him out? Work? Family? I thought for a second. He was passed over for a promotion about 3 months ago. He was upset, but didn't want to talk about it much. Sarah nodded. That lines up with when this jealousy started, right? We talked until midnight. When they left, I actually felt a bit better. Maybe Ryan's behavior wasn't really about Thomas. Maybe he was just projecting his frustration with work onto our relationship. The next morning, Ryan texted, asking to stop by and grab more clothes while I was at work. I told him I was taking a few days off and suggested we talk while the kids napped. He agreed. I spent the morning nervously cleaning and rehearsing what I wanted to say. At 1 p.m., the doorbell rang. My heart was racing. Ryan looked awful, unshaven, tired, still wearing the same clothes as 2 days ago. I let him in, and we sat at the kitchen table, an awkward silence hanging between us. The kids miss you, I said eventually. I miss them too. He stared at his hands. This isn't what I wanted. What did you want, Ryan? To control my job? Decide who I'm allowed to serve coffee to? He winced. That's not fair, isn't it? You even tried to buy me out of the business without talking to me. I was trying to protect our marriage, he said, raising his voice. That guy is clearly obsessed with you. He's not obsessed, Ryan. He has special needs and likes routines. I took a breath, trying to stay calm. But this isn't really about Thomas, is it? He looked confused. What are you talking about? This started after you got passed over for the promotion. I think you're lashing out at me because you're upset and don't know how to deal with it. He flushed. That's ridiculous. Is it? You never had a problem with my work before. But right after your promotion falls through, suddenly I shouldn't be working at all. He stopped, then looked away. You don't understand. Then help me understand. Please, talk to me. He stayed quiet so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he finally spoke. Kevin got the promotion. Your friend Kevin? I thought you were happy for him. I was. I am. But the day after he got it, I overheard him talking in the break room. He said his wife would cut her hours now that he got a raise. Said a man should be able to provide for his family alone. The other guys agreed. I stared at him. So what? Who cares what Kevin and his buddies think? They looked at me when I walked in. Got quiet. I know they were judging me, thinking I'm not man enough. I couldn't believe it. So this is about your ego? About looking like a man in front of your coworkers? It's not just that, he said quickly. When Jess mentioned that guy who waits for you every day, it made me feel worse. Like I'm busting my ass at work and I still can't measure up. And then I didn't even get the promotion. A cry from upstairs interrupted us. Liam had woken up. I went to get him, my thoughts racing. When I came back, Liam on my hip, Ryan was at the door. I should go, he said. We're not finished, I told him. I know. I just need more time. And he left again. I stood there bouncing Liam, wondering how everything got so messed up. That night, after the kids were asleep, I called my mom. I hadn't told her about the separation yet, but I needed to hear her voice. I told her everything. Oh, honey, she said. Men and their fragile egos. What should I do, Mom? I love him, but I'm not giving up my business because he's feeling insecure. Of course not, she said. But maybe there's a compromise. Ryan needs to work on his insecurities, but you can help him see he's more than just a paycheck. By the end of our call, I had a plan. The next morning, I texted Ryan, I think we need professional help. Would you consider marriage counseling? His reply came fast. Yes. I'll find someone. That gave me a tiny flicker of hope. 2 days later, Ryan texted again. He'd made an appointment with a counselor for the following Tuesday. He also asked if he could visit the kids that evening. I said yes. When he arrived, the kids were thrilled. Emma jumped into his arms, and even little Liam toddled over with a big smile. Watching them together made my heart ache. This was what I wanted, to save our family. After the kids went to bed, we sat down and talked again. It felt less tense this time. I've been doing a lot of thinking, Ryan said. You were right. I was projecting my work frustrations onto our marriage. I'm sorry. I nodded, taking it in. And the Reddit post? I overreacted. I was embarrassed, but I get why you needed to vent. I should have talked to you, not freaked out. I should have talked to you, too, I admitted. But you weren't listening. I know. I want to do better. That's why I found a counselor. She's got experience with couples therapy. We talked through some logistics. He'd stay at Mark's place until our first session, but would visit the kids regularly. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. The weekend passed in a strange limbo. Ryan came over Saturday and we took the kids to the park. We were civil, friendly, even, but there was still a wall between us. On Sunday, he took the kids to his parents' house, and I went to the cafe to catch up with Jess. He actually admitted he was wrong, I told her. Jess raised an eyebrow. Sort of. He admitted he was projecting his work stuff. We haven't talked much about the Thomas thing. Hoping the counselor will help with that. Speaking of Thomas, I hadn't seen him since Ryan's outburst. Has Thomas been coming in? I asked. Jess nodded. His caretaker comes with him now. He was really shaken up, poor guy. They're helping him adjust to a new routine. I felt a pang of guilt. I should apologize. Maybe. Let's see what the counselor says. No need to set Ryan off again. Tuesday came, and I was nervous all day. Ryan picked me up for our 4 p.m. appointment. We barely spoke on the drive. The counselor, Dr. Morgan Wilson, worked in a small office downtown. She was middle-aged, calm, and no nonsense. So, she said after introductions, tell me why you're here. Ryan and I exchanged looks. Neither of us wanted to go first. Finally, I gave a quick summary. What happened with Thomas, the Reddit post, Ryan's jealousy, and our separation. Dr. Wilson listened carefully, occasionally jotting things down. Then she looked at Ryan. What's your perspective on all this? He shifted in his seat, clearly uncomfortable. I know I overreacted with that customer, Ryan said. Lately, I've been struggling with my own insecurities about being a good provider, and I think I let all that spill into the situation. That's a pretty insightful realization, Dr. Wilson nodded. But I feel like there's more under the surface. Ryan hesitated, quiet for a moment. I think I've always been kind of jealous. Not in a controlling way, but I've always feared that my wife is just too good for me. That one day she'll figure it out. I stared at him, surprised. This was the first time I'd heard him say anything like that. Where do you think that fear comes from? Dr. Wilson asked. My dad left my mom for his secretary when I was 12, Ryan replied softly. He told her he'd found someone more exciting. Ever since, I guess I've just always worried about not being enough. The rest of the session followed that same pattern, digging into our pasts and the deeper roots of our issues. By the time the hour was up, we had some assignments, communication exercises, reflection questions, and a follow-up session on the books. In the car afterward, I reached over and grabbed Ryan's hand. I had no idea you felt like you weren't enough. He gave my hand a gentle squeeze. I should have told you. But instead, I let it all fester until it came out as this ridiculous blow-up. It wasn't completely ridiculous, I admitted. I should have told you about Thomas. Even just as a funny cafe story, it might have avoided this whole mess. We both agreed to keep working on our communication and stick with counseling. Ryan wasn't ready to move back in yet, but he started coming over for dinner most nights and helping out with the kids' bedtime. After our second session the next week, I decided it was time to deal with the Thomas situation head-on. I asked Ryan if he'd come with me to the cafe to apologize. Is that really necessary? He asked, looking uneasy. I think so, I said. Not just for Thomas, but for us. We need to face this together and put it behind us. He reluctantly agreed. We planned to go during Thomas's usual visit time, and I gave Jess a heads up so she could alert the day center. The day of the apology, I was nervous. What if Thomas was still upset? What if Ryan got overwhelmed? We arrived around 3 p.m., and Jess gave me a supportive nod from behind the counter. At exactly 3:30, Thomas came in with his caregiver, a warm woman named Linda. They sat at his usual table, the one facing where I usually work, even though I wasn't on the schedule that day. Ryan and I approached slowly. Hi, Thomas, I said gently. Do you remember me? He looked up, his face lighting up. Coffee lady. You're back. Yes, I am, I smiled. And this is my husband, Ryan. He has something he'd like to say to you. Ryan stepped forward, clearly uncomfortable but trying. Thomas, I'm sorry for how I acted the last time I saw you. I was rude, and I shouldn't have taken your table or yelled at you. Thomas looked a little confused at first, but then his expression softened. That's okay. Sometimes I get mad too. Linda added that while Thomas had been upset after the incident, he was doing much better. He still talks about you, she told me. You made quite an impression. He's a special customer, I said, smiling at Thomas. On the drive home, Ryan was quiet, but it wasn't that tense, angry silence like before. Thanks for making me do that, he said. I needed to face it. How do you feel? I asked. Embarrassed. Ashamed. But also relieved. Like maybe I can stop being the bad guy in all this. That night, after the kids were asleep, we sat on the couch and actually talked. Really talked. About our fears, our doubts, and our hopes for the future. I want to come home, Ryan finally said. If you'll have me. I want that too, I told him. But we need to set some ground rules first. We discussed boundaries and expectations. I told him I was going to keep working at the cafe. It was my business and my passion. He apologized again for trying to control that decision. We also agreed to keep going to therapy and to be honest about how we're feeling before things boil over. No more Reddit posts? He asked, half smiling. No more Reddit posts, I promised. Unless they're about something cute the kids did. The next day, Ryan moved back in. It didn't magically fix everything. We still had moments of awkwardness, disagreements, but we were learning to talk through them instead of shutting down. A week later, I returned to work. Thomas was there, grinning and excited to see me back behind the counter. When I told Jess that Ryan and I were working on things, she seemed cautiously optimistic. He's really changed, I said. Counseling is making a big difference. I hope so, she replied. Just don't let him chip away at who you are just to ease his insecurities. Jealousy can be a red flag. I know. But I don't think he's trying to control me, he's just working through stuff. And he's making an effort. Over the next few weeks, things slowly improved. Ryan was more present with the kids, giving me a break when he got home from work. We kept up our weekly counseling sessions, and the tension between us started to ease. One evening, about a month after he moved back in, Ryan came home with flowers, not as an apology, just because. I thought about you today, he said simply. Wanted you to know. It was the little things like that gave me hope. We weren't perfect, but we were trying. The real test came one afternoon when I got a text from Jess. Ryan's here. Just having lunch. My heart skipped. Was he checking up on me? Everything okay? I texted back. Seems fine. Just eating a sandwich. That evening, I asked him about it. I wanted to go back, he said. Face the scene of my meltdown. Dr. Wilson suggested I try some exposure therapy, putting myself in uncomfortable situations and responding in healthier ways. And how did it go? Good, I think. Jess was nice, which I didn't expect. Thomas came in while I was there. We said hi. He remembered me. I told him I liked his dinosaur shirt, and he told me all about his favorites. Ryan smiled slightly. He's a good kid. That night, lying in bed next to Ryan, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in months. We still had work to do, but I truly believed we'd make it. The next morning, Ryan suggested we plan a family trip, our first one since the kids were born. Nothing big. Maybe a weekend at the beach. Just us. It felt so normal, so hopeful. That sounds perfect, I said, kissing him. Later, while serving Thomas his usual smoothie, he noticed I seemed different. You happy today? He asked. Yes, Thomas, I said, realizing it was true. I really am. Good, he said, and went back to sipping. Sometimes, the wisest words come from the most unexpected places. Watching Thomas in his routine, I thought about how close I'd come to losing everything over misunderstandings and silence. We still had a long way to go, but we were finally talking, really talking, and facing our issues together instead of letting them pull us apart. Funny how the Reddit post that almost ended my marriage ended up saving it, pushing us to confront the things we'd been avoiding. Life's strange like that. Not everything works out, but if you're willing to do the work and face the truth, there's always a chance for something better. This morning, I woke up feeling more rested than I have in ages. It's been 2 weeks since Ryan came home. Things still aren't perfect, but they're better. We've had 3 more sessions with Dr. Morgan, and each time we peel back another layer. Last night, Ryan surprised me by suggesting we invite Jess and Sarah over for dinner. I think I owe them a proper apology, he said while we did the dishes. Especially Jess. I tried to go behind your back about the cafe. I nearly dropped a plate. Really? You want to do that? He nodded, a little uncomfortable but serious. Dr. Morgan recommended I make amends with the people I hurt. Her words, not mine. So tonight, we're hosting a dinner. Ryan cooked all afternoon, something he rarely did before. He made his mom's famous lasagna and even baked garlic bread from scratch. The kids were excited and kept helping by moving things around. When Jess and Sarah arrived, there was an awkward pause. Ryan hadn't really talked to them since the pad thai night. Thanks for coming, he said, taking their coats. I made lasagna. Jess raised an eyebrow at me, but handed over her jacket. Smells good, she said carefully. The first 20 minutes were small talk, the weather, Sarah's new haircut, Emma's art from preschool. Then, after a glass of wine and the kids tucked into dinner at their little table, Ryan cleared his throat. I want to apologize, he said, looking directly at Jess and Sarah. I acted terribly. I was insecure and jealous, and I took it out on everyone, especially you, Jess. I tried to buy your share of the cafe behind your back. Jess looked surprised at how direct he was. Yeah, that was pretty awful, she said. I know. And I'm sorry. That's your business and your dream, and I had no right. After a pause, Jess nodded. Apology accepted. But if you ever try that again, I won't be so forgiving. Fair, Ryan said. Sarah raised her glass. To fresh starts and honest conversations. We all clinked glasses and the room lightened. Dinner went surprisingly well. Ryan and Sarah bonded over an obscure sci-fi show, and Jess teased him about his meticulous garlic bread slicing. After they left, Ryan and I cleaned up while the kids played in the other room. That went better than I expected, he said. I admitted to loading the dishwasher. Your sister has every reason to hate me, Ryan said, scrubbing the baked-on lasagna pan. I was awful to you, and I tried to sabotage your business. She doesn't hate you, I replied. She just needed to see that you're really sorry, not just saying the words. I am sorry. For all of it. He set the pan down and looked at me. You know what the worst part is? I actually convinced myself I was doing it for you, for us. Like somehow, forcing you to quit your job would protect our marriage. I leaned against the counter. How do you see it now? Now I see I was trying to control things because I felt out of control in my own life. He shook his head. Dr. Morgan said I was trying to fix internal problems with external solutions. Sounds about right. Ryan went back to scrubbing. I'm just grateful you gave me another chance. That night, after the kids were asleep, we were curled up on the couch watching a movie. I was snuggled against Ryan's side, his arm around me, when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Jess. He seems genuinely sorry. I'm cautiously optimistic. Call me tomorrow. I smiled and tucked my phone away, snuggling in closer. For the first time in months, it felt like we were really getting somewhere. The next day was Saturday, and we took the kids to the park. It was one of those perfect spring days. Warm sun, light breeze. Emma finally got to fly the kite she'd gotten for her birthday. Ryan spent nearly an hour running through the field with her, teaching her how to keep it airborne, while I sat on a blanket with Liam, who was busy smashing toy trucks together. Watching them, I realized just how much I'd missed these simple moments during our time apart. Ryan caught my eye and gave me that big, goofy smile that still made my heart skip. It reminded me of when we first fell in love. As we were packing up, I noticed a familiar face near the playground, Linda, Thomas's caregiver from the day center. She was with a group of adults, including Thomas, who was gleefully pushing a younger man in a wheelchair on the adaptive swings. Ryan noticed them too and tensed slightly, but then took a deep breath and relaxed. We should say hi, he said, surprising me. Are you sure? He nodded. It's part of my recovery, facing things that trigger me instead of avoiding them. We walked over with the kids. Thomas spotted me right away and waved excitedly. Coffee lady, he shouted, and coffee lady's husband. I was touched that he remembered Ryan that way, not as the man who'd once lost his temper. Linda greeted us warmly and introduced us to the group. We come here every Saturday, she said. It's part of our community integration program. Ryan crouched to meet Thomas at eye level, who was now sitting on a bench. That's a cool dinosaur watch, he said, pointing to his wrist. Thomas lit up and held out his arm. T-Rex. It roars when it's lunchtime. He hit a button and the watch let out a loud roar, making Liam giggle. Dinosaur? Liam shouted, one of his few clear words. Thomas showed Liam the watch up close, and both of them laughed each time the T-Rex roared. I glanced at Ryan to see how he was doing. He looked calm, even content, chatting with Linda about their programs. After 10 minutes, we said goodbye, promising to say hi if we saw them again. As we walked to the car, I squeezed Ryan's hand. I'm proud of you. He squeezed back. It wasn't even hard this time. He's just a nice guy who likes dinosaurs and routines. And roaring watches, I added, making him laugh. That night, after the kids were in bed, Ryan brought up something unexpected. I've been thinking about therapy, not just couples therapy. I mean, individual therapy. For me. I looked up from my book, surprised. Really? He nodded. I want to understand why I reacted so strongly to the whole Thomas situation. Dr. Morgan thinks it has something to do with my dad leaving, but I think it's more than that. I think that's a great idea, I said, honestly impressed. And I've been thinking about the cafe too. My stomach tightened. Were we going back to this? I think I should come by more often, he added quickly. Not to check up on you, just to normalize it. Make it a part of my routine instead of some big scary thing in my head. I exhaled. I'd like that. Maybe you could bring the kids for Saturday pancakes. Sounds perfect. The next few weeks settled into a new rhythm. Ryan started individual therapy, and we kept going to couples counseling. He began stopping by the cafe once or twice a week, sometimes for lunch, sometimes just for coffee. At first it felt a little awkward, but soon it became normal. Thomas continued his routine visits. He always greeted Ryan with a cheerful coffee lady's husband, which became our little inside joke. Ryan even bought a dinosaur tie clip that he wore on cafe days, just so he could show Thomas. About a month after we reconciled, I was working the morning shift when Ryan texted, meeting canceled. Taking the rest of the day off. Pick you up for lunch? It was only 10 a.m., and I wasn't off until 2. Can't leave until my shift ends, I replied. I know. I'll hang out and help Jess until you're done. Sure enough, he showed up 30 minutes later with the kids. Emma ran to show Jess her new light-up sneakers. Ryan got Liam settled in a high chair with Cheerios. What's this about? I asked, leaning over the counter for a quick kiss. Just missed you, he said with a grin. Thought the kids might like to see where mommy works. Jess rolled her eyes behind him, but gave me a thumbs up. To my surprise, Ryan asked if he could help out, and Jess put him to work clearing tables. He was actually good at it, chatting with customers and letting Emma help by carrying napkin holders. Thomas came in and lit up when he saw Ryan. Coffee lady's husband is working too. Just helping out today, Ryan said, sitting beside him. From behind the counter, I watched them talking like old friends. It was still wild to me how much had changed. When my shift ended, Ryan had already packed up the kids and was waiting by the door. Where are we going? I asked. It's a surprise, he said with a mischievous grin. It turned out to be a picnic in the same park where we'd seen Thomas. Ryan had packed sandwiches, fruit, cookies, even juice boxes, and Liam's favorite stuffed bunny. What's the occasion? I asked. 6 years. Huh. 6 years ago today was our first date, he said. We had a picnic in this park, remember? I did remember. A sunny spring day, hours of talking. I was late getting back to work because I didn't want it to end. You remembered? I should have remembered more things these past few years, he said softly. I was so focused on being the perfect provider, I forgot to be a good partner. I leaned in and kissed him. Emma groaned, you. That night, after the kids were asleep, Ryan handed me a small wrapped box. One more thing. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with 4 tiny charms, a coffee cup, a dinosaur, a little house, and a heart. The coffee cup's for you and your cafe, he said. The dinosaur is to remind us about Thomas and how we nearly let insecurity tear us apart. The house is our home. And the heart, well, that one's obvious. I blinked back tears as I clasped it on. It's perfect, I whispered. We're not perfect, Ryan said, pulling me close. But we're working on it. That's what matters. 6 months later, we're still working on it. We've got ups and downs like any couple, but therapy gave us the tools to handle them better. Ryan still goes to therapy twice a month, and we see Dr. Morgan every couple of months for check-ins. The cafe's doing great. We even opened a second location downtown. Ryan finally got the promotion he deserved, but he doesn't tie his worth to a title anymore. Thomas still comes in daily for breakfast and his afternoon smoothie. He prefers me to serve him, but he's comfortable with Jess too. He and Ryan have their own ritual now, swapping dinosaur facts every time Ryan stops by. Last week, Emma asked if Thomas could come to her 5th birthday party. I wasn't sure if that'd work with his routine, but Linda said it'd be great for his social skills. So tomorrow, Thomas is coming over for cake and games with Emma's preschool friends. Life's not perfect. Ryan and I still stumble, but now we talk about it instead of letting things fester. The Reddit post that almost ended our marriage? It saved it by forcing us to face everything we'd been avoiding. Oh, and yes, Ryan gave this Reddit post his full blessing. Huh.